Welcome to another great episode of Transformed and Renewed. If this is your first time, make sure you hit that like button. Yes, thumbs up, like button. Make sure you follow us at Robody1212. If you are returning, welcome, fam. Glad to see you again here today. Again, first time, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button because I want you to get the latest updates that we have. And the only way that you can really do that is by following us and making sure that you are plugged into the robotic community. So make sure you do that. And if you haven't done it, please do. I'll remind you again at the end of this video. So, again, welcome, family. It's an amazing day. And, today it has been a busy day as this week has, but we are here and I have a amazing topic to share with you and I think that you will like this. Hopefully you don't turn the camera off or switch to something else based on this title, but this is something that I think that you will find helpful. So, we are discussing, have you been sleeping on the benefits of exercise? Because I know that when we think about exercise, it's not the sexiest terms of execution, but in thoughts or ideas, it seems pretty sexy. A lot of people say, you know what, I want to exercise, I want to look good. But when it comes down to actually implementing that, there is this disconnect. And so I want to just share or even bring to your remembrance about some things that you may have heard before and just need a refresher. So, when it comes to exercise, we know what it is. And for those who may not really understand what exercise is, it's pretty much pushing your body to a state of physical exhaustion. And so, this is basically where you are expending energy from your body. So, an example is if I, had this canister, which is filled with water, and if I fill this up, it's pretty bulky. And so, if I were to fill this all the way up to the rim, then that's going to add some weight. Now, if it was empty, then it would be less weight on my arm, and I can sense that. But as I fill up this canister, my muscles are going to start to contract more and more because they are trying to support this weight. Especially if I'm trying to keep it at a certain height, then I am using up some form of energy. And if I say I hold this for about 10 minutes or longer than that amount of time, I'm going to expend more energy. So that is pretty much how I define exercise. And there are more technical definitions for it, but essentially, it's pretty much where you are expending energy by doing an intense physical work. So when we think about exercise, it's not just people sweating. That is one of the byproducts of it. But you know, I'll try to start in this way. When we think about it from a mental health standpoint, what does exercise do? Well, it does a lot. And when we think about it from the example of a person who works a lot and they may not have time to exercise, so they may work 8-hour days, sometimes 12-hour days, and end up putting in over 60 hours a week. And so they may say, you know what, I just cannot find the time to exercise. I just don't really have that to do. And so when we think about the effects of not exercising that can cause a person to feel stressed, sometimes, when you're working so much, you may have little time to really focus well on your nutrition. So you may end up getting a lot of foods, convenient foods, fast foods, and not really keeping a tracker on how it is impacting your health. But I can guarantee you that if you do that for some time, after a couple of years, you start to notice a difference. And one of the things that I will say is that when you start to engage in exercise, it can actually help to reduce anxiety and stress. And one way it does that is by releasing these chemicals that you may have heard of called endorphins or serotonin. And these are referred to as the happier chemicals in your body, the good chemicals. And when your brain is able to release these, then you're able to start to have a more open mind. You don't feel constricted or confined, or you feel like things are just always rush. It's deadline urgency. You feel like, hey, I can catch a breather, and I'm feeling good about myself. So I would say that's one of the benefits. And along the same line is, when we think about exercise, so for example, if I am doing some sit ups and after a time I start to, do some arm workouts, after a while, my body has expended this energy, as I mentioned before, but, you know, I can feel my heart pace, you know, going faster. And that's because, again, I'm keeping up with a certain pace. And so this kind of goes back to when you can take your mind off of, what, this is something that I have to do. You take your mind off there and you focus on exercising, it just really allows you to say, okay, you know what, I have a different goal. And the beauty of it is that you can set your own goals when you exercise. And as you check off those goals, it does something, at least for me, when I'm able to check it off and I'm able to set a higher goal and I achieve that, I can say, you know what, I did this, and I feel very great about myself. And I always give glory to God. But it does a lot because it helps you to say, you know what, I set this goal and I didn't know if I was going to do it, but I did it. And so that's another thing that it can actually do, in addition to reducing stress or anxiety. Again, it can help you to boost your confidence and your self esteem. And, another thing that I would say, related to mental health is it helps you along that same line to improve your workflow and to also increase your cognitive behavior. When you think about it, when you're doing something over time, and like I mentioned, when you're eating certain foods, over time, when you're eating a lot of foods rich in fats, sodium, sugar, etc., that can affect your cognitive behavior because sometimes you may say, well, I had a brain fart, or, I don't know why my mind stopped if you were trying to say something and you forgot what you were saying. And, while most people say that here and there, if you've noticed that that has occurred often, then that could be a sign, at least, when I did some research studies have shown that, by engaging in exercise, it can help to improve your cognitive behavior. So this, when we think fast forward, when you think about some individuals who have Alzheimer's disease, or even, start to have dementia, this could be related to, a lack of exercise as well as nutrition, but really engaging in a form of, physical routine that will pretty much push your body and at least also ramp up that brain activity to where like the blood is flowing more and more. It's getting to certain parts of your body that it may not would have gotten to if you were, just sedentary. Okay, so that is something to keep in mind. Another thing that I want to point out, and kind of taking a different approach, is when we think about exercise on the body, is one of the benefits again that it can do is it can actually help to lower your blood pressure. So when we talked about how it can lower stress, yes, particularly it can help to lower your blood pressure. When you think about it, consuming a lot of foods, again, like I said, that are rich in sodium, sometimes you have to realize that if I'm consuming too much of something, it is either going to benefit you or it's going to pretty much do the opposite, where it can act as a liability. And so I give an example is when you consume a lot of foods rich in sodium again, and you may say, you know what, I don't want to exercise. Over time, if you continue that activity over and over again, higher sodium content yields to higher blood pressure. The reason being is one of the functions that sodium does for your body is it helps with your muscle and your nerve activity, and it also helps with artery, like blood flow in your artery. And so when you consume a lot of sodium, it can then add a lot of restriction on blood flow because when we think about salt, it can act as a preservative and it can act as a cleaning agent. When you think about Epsom salt and other types of salts that are used to clean, to remove cells, when you think about if you have so much sodium in your body over time, that is pretty much restricting your arteries and even causing some wear and tear on your arteries. And so that's why you may see people who, may have a stroke and they are talking to you and they may pause. That is because they may be exhibiting a stroke, or another result of high blood pressure is heart disease. And so a way that you can get this under control is reduce your sodium intake. Now, of course, one common way is by just not consuming foods that are rich in sodium. But I would say if you do decide to do that anyway, please consider exercise, because one thing that will do when you do intense exercise is that will cause again your body to expend a lot of energy. When you start to sweat, one thing you may not realize that when you're sweating, you are getting rid of toxins in your body. Okay, so when you wipe off that sweat, that means that you're wiping off toxins, and you're also expending some of those chemicals that are just not really good for you in your body, and they have to get their way out. Otherwise, it's not going to look good. You pretty much are going to hold all those bad chemicals in your body. And so this is a way that you can really get rid of that sodium. Another way is, of course, with this canister that I had full of water, is by drinking a lot of water, so that it can also help with flushing that sodium out of your body. So as you're exercising, stay hydrated, because that also, pushes that sodium out through your urine as well as your sweat. Okay. So these again are just some of the benefits of exercise. And again, like I said earlier, it can help with, reducing stress, help with improving your cognitive behavior, help with just memory. Sometimes you may feel like you cannot remember a lot, but this is going to be a benefit of exercising. And one thing that I would also say is when you start to, consider exercising, make sure you set a plan, get a buddy, enlist the help of a coach if you have to, but at least get started, because I can tell you from my own experience, exercising has allowed me to really think, a lot, and even just think about different things that I wouldn't have thought of beforehand. And it also just gives you this sense of urgency in a good way, urgency about really being intentional with your time, being intentional with, okay, this is what I need to do at this time. Okay, so let me check this off and let me do this. And it pretty much, helps you to be accountable, because when you're thinking about going through sets and reps, once you check those off, you can pretty much say, hey, this was work that I had to do and I checked it off and I did it. And so you can mark that as an accomplishment. Okay. So I want you to really take these benefits, exercise, improving, your stress, or reducing stress, helping with your cognitive behavior. Okay. Helping with anxiety, helping you to really focus and improve your brain flow, and it also helps you to, for your body to stay in shape. Okay, so when it comes to movement and muscles, when you exercise, it allows your body to be flexible. It helps you to prevent from having muscle aches or just pains. But once you are really engaging your muscles in routines, this is going to keep your muscles pretty much alive versus just wasting away. And we don't want that to happen. Okay. So hope that you can take this information and apply it. And like I said earlier, If you didn't already, make sure you subscribe to us at Robotic1212. Let me know how you feel about the content. If there are certain topics that you would like me to discuss, or you can just even send me a message because I do want to help you when it comes to your overall health and wellness. Okay. So, again, if you enjoyed this content, make sure you hit that like button, share a comment, and if nothing else, subscribe to our page so you can get the latest updates. And with that, I will talk with you later, family.